Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, Evan Perperis. Back with me for another episode where we're not just talking about me. I have the man, Bobby Ross. Bobby, welcome.
What's up, everybody? It's me, Bobby, the guy who does not belong here, as usual.
And we actually have video today, so I'm staring at Bobby Ross and our guest's face. So it's an exciting day for us.
Welcome.
Yeah, I have to film closer to the router, so I'm like sitting literally in a closet, and there's like stacks of clothes behind me, and we're trying to move, so there's like boxes everywhere.
This is how we hang out when I go over to Evan's house. He's like, "Hey, come into my closet,"
and we just sit there awkwardly.
We just gotta sit down and like watch, like YouTube on his computer.
Hold hands. It's awesome. Anyway, let's jump into today's sponsor, and then we'll jump into the episode. So today's sponsor, this episode is brought to you by Exoskin. So you've been heard me talking about Exoskin in the last couple episodes. They make compression apparel and socks designed for ultra running and obstacle course racing. We're going to have one of the guests coming up who's an ultra runner, pretty big name ultra runner. I don't want to say who it is because in case it gets canceled last minute, but it's a huge ultra running star. He swears by Exoskin for, long distance endurance, to prevent chafing. And then on the obstacle course racing side, it's great for repelling water. Like I've talked about before, the Marina sports shorts I normally use they're no longer in production. So I had to find something new, and Exoskin is it. Compression shorts, great for OCR, great for ultra running, which is kind of where my two worlds collide. And if anyone wants to save some money, you can head over to exoskin.us and use code STRENGTH20. We don't get a kickback from that. That savings is all going to you. So check them out. All right, let's get to today's guest. Joining me, I have Anthony Miale. He's a senior editor for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. Yes, that show. There's not some other show named exactly the same. It's that big show on HBO. He's got 2 Emmy awards, like with his actual name on it. It says Anthony Miale. I've picked him up and ran around his apartment when he wasn't paying attention. And he's got 3 additional nominations for that. He's also worked on some other shows, including, Nikki and...
I worked on Nikki and Sarah Live on MTV, which lasted for 2 seasons.
Right.
With, a 1-season MTV show or 2-season MTV show.
Yeah.
And then David Tell's Comedy Underground.
Yeah.
Mostly comedy stuff. Oh, yeah. I worked on that right before Last Week Tonight.
So, and the other fun thing, me and Anthony went to high school together, so we've known each other for a long time. He's in my wedding party, very good friends. And so we're going to be talking about, achieving mastery and kind of pursuing your dreams in this episode for the first half. And then we're going to get his perspective on obstacle course racing centric media. So I sent him some clips to kind of look at to show like what's currently going on. And we're going to talk about kind of the future of media in general and, kind of how we might be able to sell or, market obstacle course racing more to the masses as opposed to, essentially us fanboys like drooling over live feeds that are 3 hours long, right? So, Anthony, welcome.
How you doing? Good to be here.
Let's start off with like Last Week Tonight, right? Huge show. And then on top of that, you've won several Emmys, which is also pretty crazy.
I've never heard of this show.
It's on YouTube. It's one of the YouTube shows. Yeah.
I'll go look it up after this.
So like, take me through, I guess, like how that happens, right? Like, how do you go from like, hey, me and my friends are editing really shitty horror movies in our basement to now I'm working on HBO
In your
show.
opinion, they were that quality. I thought they were just
amazing.
Wonderful. I take pride in my work.
Yes. So take us through the process there, kind of how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, you knew me. I was always had a camcorder or something and growing up, and when we were just making random videos. I went to film school at Hofstra University. After that, I worked in PR, surprisingly, for about like 6 years, just making corporate sizzle reel videos. While I was doing that job, I was on the side making sketch comedy videos with friends from college. And I've met a lot of people doing live shows and making these videos. We work on other people's videos. Other people would work on our videos. And just, we created a big network of people that I ended up collaborating with later on. One of the guys who I did comedy videos with, like from another group, he knew people who were getting this MTV show together. and they wanted a comedy editor, not like just like a straight up MTV editor, I guess, or they wanted someone who had comedy chops. And so he reached out to me. I applied for the job, and I got it. And then after that, someone from that show ended up working on that Dave Attell show I mentioned earlier. So I got a job on there. And then from that same person recommended me for Last Week's Night. So Last Week's Night is my third TV job, which is kind of bonk. And I've been there since the beginning of the series. So that was 2014, I think. So yeah, went from crappy camcorder videos, quote unquote crappy. I'll make air quotes, but no one's gonna see that. To that.
Yeah, wild. It's
It's
because
very weird.
Because I've been friends with you the whole time. I feel like it just happened so slowly. It was like seamless from my end, right? Like where it's you're just working and you're all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm on John Oliver's show. No big deal. And it's like, wait, what?
I mean, look, those 6 years when I was working at the PR company and I was just doing comedy just on the side, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I mean, that was 6 years. I sped through it in the story because I had to get to the good stuff. But those were 6 long years of like working a day job. And like it wasn't like a horrible job, but it was, it wasn't a creative thing. There were creative moments that like bled into the comedy side where like I learned tech stuff that helped me do like better graphics and like better green screen effects and stuff on the comedy videos I was doing. So that was a definite benefit. They sent me to editing classes. And so it all sort of, meshed together into the stuff I was doing.
So it sounds like to me, several years of practice. And then on top of that, it was a lot about kind of building relationships and networks with friends.
Totally.
Who essentially open doors.
Yeah, I attribute most of like my career trajectory to collaborations and working with other people, and like, that was something I learned early in my career, where you have to collaborate. You can't just, I know it's kind of difficult to compare that to, I mean, working on a team, and there were times when like, your own ego goes ahead. We're like, oh, we should do it this way, we should do it this way. But like that second opinion or third opinion of like people who you trust to work with it goes miles.
Gotcha. And I mean, on the obstacle course racing side, I've seen that on, as I've been kind of trying to navigate my way through the sport, those relationships I've built have helped get team sponsors, and then those team sponsors have helped sponsor other series, right? So same, because I go in and make friends with someone, and then they become a known entity. They've seen the good work we've done.
Mm-hmm.
It continues to like snowball forward and bring good things.
Yeah, no. I completely agree. I mean, this all started from me doing sketch comedy, and like I happened to like meet this person who got me on this TV show because he worked with one of the hosts on a different job, and then someone on that show liked the way I worked, and they recommended me for another show, and they recommended me for another show. I haven't applied for a job in a very long time. It's all been recommendations.
Nice. Bob, you got anything? You got any killer insight questions?
Oh, I'm still geeking out over here. Don't mind me. No, I'm totally with you.
But I mean, look, it was a lot of it was a lot of like individual stuff. Like I know, Bobby, you do independent film or videos and stuff like that for OCR. Like, I mean, what's that? How did you get into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's exactly like what you say. Like the only time that you ever get a stepping stone from one job to the next is by collaborating with somebody else, right? Like you can like plug away with 1 or 2 clients and just be making money, but you're not going to go anywhere. That's kind of like where I found myself right now is like, I was really late to start this. Like I got my a degree in music composition, and then I spent my 20s working up to, touring full time. And then when I finally got there and I spent a little bit of time there, I realized I just hated it. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to create and make art. And it turned out that being a tour musician is about 40 minutes of music every second day, maybe. And then you drive for, 20 hours with people you hopefully like, but you're not creating very much, And so when I got into filmmaking, I happened to be in Tulsa, and I was 29. I just kind of like learned to use a camera and jumped out. And every single time that I've been able to kind of like take a stepping stone, like moving from church media to freelancing, moving from like freelance videography to like the OCR world, then moving from OCR now into like working as a cinematographer more and more and doing music videos and stuff like that. Every single time it had nothing to do really with getting better and people noticing that so much as it was calling someone up, hey, can I do this for you? Hey, let me introduce you to this person, right? And so you've got to be good enough. You've got to be ready to meet that. But really, honestly, like that's going to come just from experience. Really where it comes from is like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you want to get together on Tuesday night and just shoot some stupid shit and just like see what happens?
That's exactly how with the guys who I was making comedy videos with in college, like we just sort of, picked each other out of crowds and we're like, oh, you want to make something? Or like in our classes, like, oh, you said something weird in class. Do you want to make a video after class? Or do you want to skip class and make a video?
Yeah.
one or the other,
And I know some of those guys went on to some pretty big success, right? One of them's on SNL,
Yeah.
or was, or is.
One of them was on SNL for a season. And one of the guys is an editor. He works on like some like ABC and some Disney stuff. One of the guys actually he's a director, but he also works on Last Week Tonight doing graphics. Tim, like there's just a lot of, and he got that job because we lost a graphics person, and I recommended him because I knew he was good. That's another thing. It's not just about who you know, but if you network well and you put effort into your work. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that 15 plus years ago. So that our college.
I mean, I graduated 2004. Yeah. And I met these guys 2001. Yeah. So I've known them for 20 years, and we still talk to each other. We still hang out and everything. Through the pandemic, we were on Zoom calls and chats and everything.
As an outsider from the media industry, I've been exposed to it a little bit just because of hanging out with Bobby, where we'll go on a shoot and he'll take like 800 pictures and he'll be like, yeah, I got like 20 good ones at least in there. And I'm like, what? Why don't you have 700 good ones, right? Like, so take us through like a week in the life of a senior editor for Last Week Tonight, right? Because you guys are producing fresh content on the weekly there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the general show is just like, it's very straightforward. It's footage, and since we've worked from home, the other editor and I will like work on it remotely and get it out and all that stuff. The more creative part of my job is when we get assigned a field piece or something that's going to relate to the story that the host is talking about at the end. And that's usually like a self-contained short film or sketch or something like that. And obviously we did a lot more of them before the pandemic, but it was when we did do them, those were like, they were full on shoots. They were full on like, TV or film shoots where there was a, production designer who makes sure everything looks great. They storyboard everything. The director and the producers are just constantly working. There's like a whole, section of our company just like working on getting this maybe 2 to 3 minute sketch made. And sometimes they'll be doing it months out. Like last year, at the end of the year for the finale, we blew up a giant effigy of like 2020 in a quarry.
And I cried. I was crying. It was so good.
Yeah, our production staff did an incredible job with that, and it was, and it was difficult because of COVID restrictions and distancing, and there was like so many new protocols set on film sets nowadays. But like the scale of that thing, like, I don't know the details of it, but it was a lot of, can we shoot on this day? Well, if it rains, the quarry might flood or something. I don't know. And it's like, there was so many weird logistical things that go into that. So for that shoot specifically, that was just a lot of moving parts in the pre-production. Sometimes when there is the shoots and there would be, so there was one thing that comes to mind a few seasons ago. We did a thing was it Public Defender? We did a thing about, it was like a sketch where like a bunch of kids were in charge of a court, and there was one like adult in it, and it was John Benjamin, the guy who does the voice of like Archer, and he was basically improvising on a 6-hour shoot with kids, and it was just like the kids were just, like, we gave them like lines to read and stuff, but we used a lot of their improvisations. Long story short, it was like 6 hours of footage, and it was maybe a 2-minute piece. And that all happened in like, 24 hours of like going through 6 hours and getting that 2 minutes out of there. And so like that kind of weekend is a lot of just like you're saying with Bobby, like taking 800 pictures and choosing, 10 of them. That
sketch was so fun. It had so much energy, man.
It's crazy. Thank you. Getting through that, that was a rough weekend. love kids, but it was a rough weekend.
That's a lot of kids in one place too. Like
It is.
That's just like like vibes from everybody all the time, and their emotions are going back and forth.
Yeah.
Those are great. I can definitely attest a little bit to the kind of like manic energy of those sorts of shoots too, because like that's what shooting a race is like. That's what shooting an OCR event is. It's like, all right, cool. I've got 24 obstacles. We've got 6 waves, and I've got to make sure that I have enough time at each one of these obstacles. I kind of have an idea of how I want to shoot it. And then when it's time to go, there's not a second chance. So you just don't stop shooting, right? Like, I mean, like you just like, I mean, I'll shoot the whole thing in slow motion. So I've got a lot to look through. And so you just kind of like fall back on all of your instincts at those sorts of points, and then like hope that you can sort it out later.
Yeah, that's what editing's for.
Right.
Sorting it out. And it is one of the interesting things to me about being an editor is like finding those moments and finding those puzzle pieces and putting them together into one cohesive, like just focused narrative. And then like with your videos, I was curious. I was watching, like you're saying you shoot everything in slow motion. That's a lot of footage. Like slow motion is just those extra frames. I can't even imagine. Is it just you, or do you have a crew with you?
It's just me.
Wow.
And I just graduated to mirrorless from DSLR too.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I finally have like 9 stops of dynamic range to work with. So it's like, it's bright. I'm sweating in my eyes because I'm not actually in that good a shape. Like, and I'm looking right into the sun, and I'm like, all right, I'm fairly certain that I have everything exposed well. And then someone runs by and they're doing something cool, and you just got to run and go grab that. And so you just like get home, and then you've got like, 4 hours of footage, and it's due the next day, and just go, okay, I think I remember when most of the cool stuff happened, and then just kind of go from there.
That literally
It's
sounds
wonderful
like a
though,
nightmare.
because you start to build. I don't like editing. I like shooting.
Getting a first edit or first cut of something is definitely the hardest part for me. Going through all that footage, like, and you're just basically throwing mounds of clay onto this table, and you're just like, sure, that one looks good, and you're just like, blah, 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 blah. My hands are flailing for anyone who's just listening.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of just refining and like shrinking and like shaving and trimming and, you know, snipping fat, and that's when it gets fun, when you start when you have like the content that you want to show, and then you just start playing with that and then making that.
Yeah.
You refining it.
You start to find the moments that are important. You start to find where like it goes from documentation into emotion, like where you start to say, okay, I felt something that time. Why did it feel good to cut from this scene to this scene? Or why did it feel that, like, why did that part of the music not work at all for where I have it? Because like the first, like I have to cut, like if it's race coverage, it has to go down to like a 3-minute sizzle reel or whatever. So if you've got 4 hours, then you start just like, I'll just go in my media window, and it's like, okay, I'm cutting and I'm throwing stuff out. And that first like cut will be like 20 minutes. And it's like, okay, hey, I don't think any of this is good. I need to go and shoot the whole thing again. I got to start over. I don't want it. And then it's like either, depending on how early it is, if it's 8 a.m., I'll have coffee. If it's 9 a.m., it might go to whiskey immediately, because it's just like, it seems like everything is horrible. It seems like
that's a hard but natural turn. I understand that. And then oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, the point of driving home, though, is a lot more complicated than us as racers who get this awesome video, 2 days later, realize. There's just so much more going into the backside.
Yeah.
Just like putting on a race, there's just so much going into the backside you just never see, and you just have absolutely no clue of. Anthony, when we see a clip on Last Week Tonight, like how many revisions, I know obviously it'll be different for every clip, right? Like, but how many revisions am I looking at on the finished product?
Something I did this past weekend, we went to, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn my phone on silent. Something we did this past weekend went to 15 versions, I want to say. And that's like a fully edited, I'm not talking about like the clips you see throughout the show of like, that are interspersed with John talking to like, sort of prove what he's talking about, or to like add to the narrative of like the arc I'm talking about like the sketches or we do those like end now interstitials, which are super cuts of like footage, like news coverage, and we like find like a beat in them and sort of like play on it and make a joke about like, oh, this person says this newscaster says this all the time. This newscaster quotes R&B lyrics all the time, and we'll do like a super cut of that. But
those
yeah,
have to be insane to edit.
It's a lot of footage. Talk about footage. And like there were times when I'm like, oh, we have too much of this. Let's do 2 of them, and then we'll do like a 2-parter within the one episode, or like we'll keep on coming back to one character, quote unquote character, like a newscaster who like keeps on doing a thing, or like someone, But yeah, this past weekend I was on version 15 of something, which for the bigger pieces it's usually between 8 and I would say 15 or so. This one was an animation that we did, so it was a lot of like we getting footage from a different part of the company, and then like cutting in the updated animations, and so it was a lot of back and forth. But yeah, I mean, there was one thing that there's a piece that went to 27 versions.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not like, the people in charge of the show they're great with giving notes. Just sometimes we can't find, especially with that those and now interstitials, like we can't find like the right landing to something, or something. Oh, that joke is good. It could be better. Let's keep on looking. One of those types of deals. And it's also myself and the director just wanting to make the thing better. Like I'll watch something and I'll be happy with it, and like the bosses will be happy with it, but I'll just keep going because I'm just like, well, when is this going to air? Okay, so this is taping. I have to finish this by tomorrow night. What else can I add between now and then? Like it's not done until it gets taken away from me.
Right, and I know because I know the answer to this one because I went to your office a couple years ago and I actually got to watch a live filming of Last Week Tonight, which is a pretty cool experience. When does it actually get taken away from you? Because I saw you working on stuff.
Right after that taping. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just saying, like they literally had you change something, like, and we were like, oh, we're going into the viewing area in like 15 minutes. I was like, and they're like, can you make this explosion smaller or bigger? I can't remember what it was. But you like
probably something dumb like that.
Yeah, but like you literally were editing stuff like as we're like waiting to go get seated. It was pretty wild.
Sometimes after even sometimes the other editor will be working on like the cut of the show, and we will have such a big thing, or the turnaround will be so tight that I will be editing it until the show is fed. Not even like, so the show taping is done. We're like tweaking things that happened during the taping. Like maybe there was like someone coughed in the audience or something like that, or I hit the microphone. Maybe John hits the microphone. Maybe like the timing of something is off. So we just like, we trim that stuff after the taping. There have been multiple times where like either myself or the other editor were still working on our pieces right up until we had to like, press spacebar and play the show down to like a network feed, to like a satellite feed or whatever. Like, that's and then wild. So we get the last piece in, render it, and then I think with the finale 2 years ago, when we were still in the studio, I was making revisions up until the feed, which was and that was just straight up taken away from me. I wish I had another day to work on that thing. I was like, and like I'm still happy with it. Like watching it now, you're removed from all the drama of what was going on at the time while you were making it. And that also brings me to like something where it's like you also have to make sure you have fresh eyes when you watch something, or when you are working on something, because if you're just in it for so long, you lose perspective of what you're doing. That's harder from a marathon or point of view, I would think, because you're just in the thing and you can't really like stop and go away and then come back and be like, I'll finish this tomorrow. I'll get a better perspective on my pacing tomorrow.
You're kind of in it at that point.
So our jobs are very different, but not entirely.
All right, so let's start jumping into some of your thoughts on OCR and just kind of the future of media in general. So, I sent you a bunch of links, and I know you watched a little bit of them just for the audience here. I sent him a clip of the Spartan Games, the event that Spartan did during kind of COVID lockdown. I did send him like a normal race coverage link, so live feed on Facebook. That's like 3 hours. Sent him a clip of like a 1 hour NBC special that was aired on NBC Sports for a while. And then like kind of like a normal non-major race series type clip, and then some of Bobby's videos for OCR America that were more storyline centric. give me some like general thoughts on like your opinion on the future of media, right? Because like growing up, it was all about TV, and now like I know I canceled my cable service, and I know a lot of my friends don't have cable, and like me and Bobby were talking like we just watch YouTube because I can get literally exactly what I want. Kind of what's
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts on like, you know, someone who's like in the industry, like what's the future of entertainment kind of looking like?
I mean, I cut my teeth on on internet and like YouTube sketch comedy. Like that's what I started doing. That was my most accessible audience when I was doing comedy. When as a side project when I had like a day job I wasn't crazy about. And in even that company I worked for, we did strictly internet content. Um, and like we were able to sort of do everything. Sorry, my cat was doing something. We were able to do whatever we wanted. We weren't limited to network notes or anything like that. Because we were just making this stuff, putting it out there. And I think that's a very strong utility that I didn't have when I was in like say when we were in high school. Like the videos that we made, we couldn't make them and just like put them somewhere. We just sort of had to show them to our friends at a party. And it's like, look at this thing that we made. It's hilarious, right? Right? And we would be laughing the loudest in the room. But like, I think
for our listeners, Anthony made a video in 2003 while I was on military training, and it's a horror movie. It's about 10 minutes long, and I showed Bobby about 3 days ago, and it is just as funny as I remember it. I think it's the best piece of footage ever. All right, keep going. Sorry.
No, I think I still think the internet, like I still think whatever YouTube is going to evolve into or what it has, like I watch more YouTube than anything. I watch YouTube on my TV. I that's one of like the only subscriptions that I pay for, or that I pay for a bunch of subscriptions, but that YouTube is the one I feel like I get the most bang for my buck. Because I think about all the amount of YouTube I watch compared to the advertisements I'd be watching. I pay for like the YouTube Red or whatever, so I just never, so I cut out all the commercials and everything. But like, it's difficult. There's so many, I guess, networks have moved over to this hybrid of app or internet and broadcast.
Right, like so HBO has HBO and then HBO Max, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting like the older crowd probably with HBO who still has their subscription,
Mm-hmm.
and the younger crowd who's like, I literally watch everything off my phone or tablet.
Yeah, but to prove the point further, like our show when we started, it was a very big thing that we were putting like almost our entire episode on YouTube. That was like, and like we just, because not HBO was such a that it's an expensive piece of cable to pay for. What? Yeah, premium. There you go. That's the word. And so like I thought it was very cool that we were putting it on YouTube, and because we do cool like research stories, and I think it shouldn't be limited to people who have money to pay for premium cable. And I'm glad that like a lot of other shows are also doing that, and because you're right, I can just watch I heard this, I don't want to watch the entirety of say SNL or something like that, even though I mostly do, but like sometimes
that's what I was going to actually say as the example.
I heard that sketch was really good. Let me send it, or like, I can send the sketch to Evan because it's funny or whatever. I do mostly watch the entirety of SNL though. It's like a habit. It's just something I've been doing since I was a kid.
I don't watch much SNL anymore. Although there is a James Franco was on an episode where they're wrapping Christmas paper and he cuts his finger, and it's literally it's like one of the funniest pieces of footage I've ever seen. I laughed so hard during it. I'll drop the link in the notes of the show because it's that good.
But yeah, I really think whether I think the major networks and companies are like seeing that, and I think that's why they're making these prepackaged apps, with like of HBO Max, and like they're just like, okay, what content can we have on this streaming service? And and then they are becoming pretty much just channels again. But I think they are more focused if you have like a special interest, and I think something with OCR I think would benefit very greatly on like finding what channel or what group of channels it could be a part of.
I was just going to interject. I think that's a really great point, because it seems like TV was what it was for a very long time, and then the internet came around and we had YouTube, and it suddenly seemed like people wanted to enjoy media in smaller chunks. But as time has gone on, YouTube has begun to play host to a lot more long form content. And as that content has grown, we've seen things like Twitch and streaming become a big
totally
thing. And that's a whole segment of the audience that wants longer form content that they can engage with and then sort of disengage from, which is something that like live feed, OCR, like the CrossFit Games or things like that, like really lend themselves to. But we've also seen the market grow in the exact opposite direction with things like TikTok and Instagram Reels and Stories that are even smaller than YouTube ever was, with like these like 15-second chunks of content that you can consume, like a story basically with like a tiny piece of your mind that's like distracting you throughout the day. And so I don't know if it's that the format of TV is the problem. It's just that you have to go to so many different places to get that content now, right? And we don't want to be advertised to all the time in the traditional sense, as in we don't want to deal with 5 minutes of commercials and then 10 minutes of like story, but it's all viable now. A 30-minute piece of content on YouTube is something that I will definitely sit down and watch. I'll watch Lindsay Ellis's essays an hour long every single time. I don't even care. Like that's the same format that I would have, like consumed on television before. Mm-hmm. So I think that like there's a lot of room for lots of different ways to consume OCR content. The problem is exactly what you said. Where do you go to get OCR? Like, show me that streaming service that's all about a niche sport like that, or like all about consuming all kinds of different links and formats of content so that I don't have to pay for this or that subscription service. I don't want ABC and NBC and CBS. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to go to Hulu unless Letterkenny is on. It's the only thing that'll pull me over to Hulu.
That's a good reason.
It's incredible. But I don't watch anything else because I don't want to deal with it. Like, I just spend time on YouTube and TikTok. That's like basically like all I consume. So I think that's a super great point. Where you put it is more important than how you present it, I think.
Yes, totally. I think that to your point about TikTok and Instagram also, while watching the links that Evan shared, prior to the podcast, there was a lot of it's with OCR. I feel like each individual obstacle was very interesting to watch, and I think in a micro, I guess, format like Instagram or TikTok or something like that, it might also play well on that. It's like, oh, here's a cut of like a bunch of people going through this one obstacle. Here is this one person doing this, specific obstacle. And like another thing I noticed, it was the documentary aspect of most of the races, how it's like, because the races are so long and there's a lot of like in between the different obstacles and obviously the different people running them, I like hearing the personal stories of each person running it because everyone seems to be running for something different. And I think, something different, but also they're all doing it for whether themselves or someone else. It's that I found very engaging.
Gotcha. Yeah, that format seems to have worked well for like Ninja Warrior with diving into the backstories of a lot of people to make them a little more memorable versus just like, here's your dude running on the course and
right.
Well, they're doing crappy, So
I think something about like OCR. OCR's got like, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it's kind of got a little bit of a Napoleonic complex. It's like constantly like the little guy that nobody really knows about. We got to continue to reintroduce ourselves every time. It's like, like you watch a YouTuber like just getting started, and for like the first 100,000 subs, it seems like everything is like, hi, I'm this and this is my message. Like, hi, this is me and this is what I do. Like OCR has been doing that for years now, and that's the problem with this sort of thing, because you've got like the high level media that wants to kind of create stars, but nobody really knows who those stars are. And then you've got like the kind of stuff that I do, which is very low level media, where you're still making mostly videos for the the stuff that I do, like that I did this weekend. I can't just create something that's beautiful or about the obstacles or something that it's like a hybrid sort of piece of media that's mostly about people seeing themselves later so that it promotes the race, like it promotes the series. So you've got to like go back and forth between like trying to create something that's beautiful and maybe something that tells a story, and then also something that serves a marketing purpose that's very specifically like everybody who raced wants to see their faces. So you just show as many slow motion shots of people looking their best as you can. And it's still walking that weird line between like a professional sport where who everybody, like CrossFit is kind of reached that place where
Yeah.
we know who our favorite CrossFit athletes are, but we really don't know who's big in OCR. We're still trying to figure out what kind of media works in each situation.
I was going to say there are big names in OCR, but again, I think they're only known in the OCR crowds, right? Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
like Ryan Atkins walking around or Jonathan Alban walking around like festivals. People aren't like, ooh, like running up to, it's like just another athlete walking around. So yeah, it's, yeah.
It's interesting because I had sort of an opposite. I mean, because I don't know any OCR stars, I was watching these videos thinking like, oh, that looks like it would be really fun to do. Maybe like that community, like, and maybe that's what you want to get at some of these videos where it's like, hey, like you're saying a marketing sort of level aspect of it, like let's entice people to like come to these events, like, or to, sign up for these races, the ones that, almost, just normal, anyone can sign up for. I don't know. I feel like finding those like fun footage was just very interesting to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think they're doing a pretty good job with that because I mean people will show up to the race all the time, and then a lot of times I'll talk to someone after and they'll be like, "Oh, there's a competitive side of this," and you're like, "Yeah." It's like, yeah, there is a competitive side. It's what I do like almost every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, but I mean, you're sort of like proving a point. Like, how do you, as someone who didn't watch I know there is a competitive side because I know you, and I know that you do these races and everything.
Right.
Some of the videos, not all of them, all of them, you obviously see that there is a race. Some of them, it just looks like, oh, this is like a fun thing that people were doing.
Yeah.
Like draw the, how do you draw that line and be like, okay, you like set up, like you do it, like, I guess, like an American Ninja Warrior type, format where it's like these are our contest, or like in like not American Gladiators, I know it's not that, but it's like that's what sort of I'm thinking of, where it's like these are our contestants, and like as a kid I like gave a crap about those guys, like
laser,
the quote unquote normal contestants, and like and the gladiators. I don't know, is there some sort of like more, not to like strip it of the athletic part of it, but I've seen pictures of you do like races as comic book characters, like,
yeah,
is there some sort of like fun aspect to or like entertainment aspect the races that maybe hasn't been tapped yet, like not quite WWE, but like more like, cause not like that performative, but like more just like it can probably be done in the editing or the filmmaking of it, where it's like here are like the main people who are running this race.
Yeah.
These are the people that we should be focusing on, and maybe try to make a narrative of their competition.
I think Spartan does that with their NBC races. They've been doing that, and I feel like we've tried. I say we. Almost is not OCR. It's just like Hollywood and media has tried, where like they take kind of OCR and kind of blend it with kind of reality TV, where there's shows like $1 Million Mile, and where it's like they're doing obstacles, but there's also contestants, but they're also introducing backstories. And what was the other one? The one with John Cena, the one with the Rock, Titan Games.
That's the one.
Was one. That one's a little less OCR, a little more of just like random strength competitions. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we tried a lot of different things, and I figured something would have stuck by now, but Ninja Warrior seems to be the only thing that's like really stuck. Everything else lasts for a season or two and then is gone.
They have a pretty good format down, but yeah, I don't know what that alternate angle of it would be.
Something that I think works really well for Ninja Warrior, that I think that some races do better than others. I think that while Spartan has just the most beautiful, like I love their media all the time, I think that something that can be played up more is like the character of the obstacles themselves. I think Conquer the Gauntlet does really well with like Pegatron, right? Like Pegatron is known to be a really like, for anybody who doesn't know Pegatron, it's basically a pegboard where you have to hold the pegs, and they're really short, and so you got to go through, but you can't use your legs. And so it's kind of become a thing that it's super difficult, and a lot of people fail. And, if it's over water, well, then it's like, then all of the pegs are wet and you're wet, and it's even more difficult. But they've got like a legend of Pegatron, right? Like, I mean, like they've got like this sort of animated sort of or just sort of an illustration of a character that's like a banner on the side of it.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about, hey, how'd you do on Pegatron? How'd you do on this? And reinventing those obstacles each year is something that I think the races could work on too. Keeping a name, just like I think you mentioned American Gladiators, and I immediately thought about that. It was like these like little events and these obstacles, they like came back season after season, but they were kind of different. Or like even in the next episode, they'd have a spin.
Yeah,
I think CTG has kept that up.
I think like having a brand associated with like the different. I think that's really smart, because when watching American Gladiators, whenever they'd be like, okay, next event will be the Gauntlet, immediately I'd be like, okay, I have to watch this. Or it's like, oh, I don't like this event. I don't like this event that much. Was it the joust? Was that the joust?
Yeah, it was like the pugil sticks. They hit each other.
Yeah.
What about Legends of the Hidden Temple?
Yes,
loved Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Or like Guts or something like that. Like
Guts.
And like I'm not, and like I don't want to seem like hopefully I'm not like sounding like insulting, like comparing OCR to Guts, but Guts had like a very, it was kids doing obstacle course, but it had like a very kid vibe to it, where it was like super, they're climbing a plastic mountain, or I assumed it was.
So I'm making a note to myself right now that I need to find someone that was on Legends of the Hidden Temple and bring them on the podcast. And then make sure they also do OCR, like as an adult. Also, random story. There's a movie called Legends of the Hidden Temple based on the TV show that I watched with my daughter during quarantine last year. And there's all these like subtle throwbacks and like little, like the monkey statues in there. And
the purple monkeys.
And they reference all the different colored animals in the teams. It was good for a kids movie, right? I mean, you're not going to be like, that's one of my new top 5 movies. You'll enjoy the nostalgic throwbacks.
Move over, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I just want to like very quickly like get off topic and say that Susan, like the skeleton in the background and that shadow.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Me out when I see myself in the Zoom meeting, and I'm loving it right now.
So Bobby has a full-size human skeleton hanging behind him in his Zoom window.
With a Hawaiian shirt on.
Yeah.
It's I swear I've not been looking at it all Zoom. I do have any celebrities done OCR races, because that's like the easiest way to get more recognition, is having someone famous do your thing.
Yeah, so we had Randy Moss did a couple Spartan races. He got his trifecta, so doing 3 races of different distances in a calendar year. Lance Armstrong actually came into the sport for a little bit. I can't remember if he actually ran the pro wave or was just running the open waves. And then, there are celebrities that pop in and out. Conquer the Gauntlet has one of the Hanson brothers. Nice. From Hanson. You remember?
Yeah, I remember Hanson.
Stey's ex-girlfriend was obsessed with them.
Oh, I do.
So we've seen him. No big deal. And someone always puts Mbop on the Conquer the Gauntlet playlist when he shows up. So at some point it comes over. But he's a good
spite him.
No, he's a good sport. He seems super chill, and he a lot of times he posts like videos of him doing Conquer the Gauntlet afterwards, and like the body cam GoPro type footage.
Not for nothing, but that song is a jam. you listen to like I don't know. It's a very catchy song, and it's like made to. Yeah, that's a commercial song and a half, and I think it did its job really well. Listening to it now, removed from like, I don't want to listen to this dumb song. I listened to it like a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, wow, that's a solid song. Good for them. Good for these 3 brothers.
Mood.
Yeah, it is.
I'm in a mbop mood today.
I didn't like seek it out. It got in my head I guess I did seek it out. It got in my head somehow, and then anyway, this is a tangent and a half.
Yeah, so it sounds like, it's like some of the ideas you're postulating are all good, and I feel like maybe we are doing the right things. Maybe we're just not being patient enough to let things kind of take off. And obviously, COVID did not help anything, because it took a pretty severe blow to a lot of industries, OCR included. And I don't think we'll really understand the effects of that until probably another year or 2 down the line, where we can tell like what was the actual effect of COVID on OCR. So, but I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. I think the sport will continue to go on regardless. It may not be in the format or the same style that we're used to, but it's going to go on. If anyone wants to, I wrote an article called The End of the Golden Era of OCR or something like that on the teamstrengthspeed.com website. If anyone wants to go.
That's some clickbait right there.
Go peruse that. I kind of compare it to some other sports like I do with OCR regularly, and just talk about some of my thoughts on kind of the future.
I think that it's a thing that just you write, like Evan, like writing an article about like the end of the golden era of OCR. I think you're right. Like OCR hasn't had much time to develop a narrative as a sport yet either. Just over the long term, if you talk about like baseball, you have so much connection to baseball. And even like CrossFit, because they had so much media so early, we've got narratives of over the past several years of big athletes become stars and then kind of like fall down. So there's a wave, there's history there. Like OCR may just need to like develop a little bit more of a mythos.
Could be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, how old is it as a sport?
So I would say I would count from 2011 as the start of the sport, right? So I mean, there's been other events earlier, but like the first quote unquote world championship for World's Toughest Mudder and Spartan Race was 2011, and then the first OCR World Championships, kind of all brand inclusive, was 2014. But I would say the start of the competitive side of the sport, in my opinion, is 2011, even though there were races earlier. So it's only 10 years.
It's still in its infancy, and like it's going to continue to evolve, and maybe one aspect of it will sort of emerge as like, okay, let's focus on this. Like I'm not talking even about like media coverage. I'm talking about like as like the community is like, hey, this is more fun if we just focus on this. I don't know what it would be, but
as an OCR, we've been really like chase the shiny object type thing, where it's like, all right, we're doing endurance this year, and everyone's like, ooh, endurance, and then like there's 8-hour races, 12-hour races, 24-hour races, and then someone's like, no, we're doing 1 mile races, and everyone's like, 1 mile races, and they go running in the other direction, and you're getting like the same athletes like just kind of zigzagging around. Like right now we're in the high rocks / decafit phase, which is, I would say, is more endurance CrossFit than it is actually obstacle course racing, because it's like 10K, so about 6 miles long, and you do like workout stations. So it's like CrossFit with more running, in my opinion. So we're kind of running around.
That I actually do well in.
Yeah, maybe you should go do decafit or high rocks there.
I mean, hypothetically speaking, like what would an OCR Olympic category be like? Would it be like a race? Would it be like a cross-country ski type thing? Would it be an obstacle course?
So my suggestion, which I've talked about on the podcast before, is basically it's like steeplechase, but instead of steeplechase obstacles, there's like a rig on the side or there's a wall. Because the problem is you need to be able to standardize it a little bit more, so it's not as so you can compare times on the opposite side of the world, right? So like I think there's room for an Olympic side of OCR that's very standardized and very, I'm going to use the term bland, but like kind of non-changing. And then I think there's the kind of the equivalent of that would be like Olympic lifting, where it's very here's what you do, here are the rules, here's how thick the bar has to be, etc. And then I think there's also room on the other side of the sport for kind of the wild and crazy. So strength sport has Olympic lifting, and then it has strongman, which is like lift this beer keg and throw it over this bar. Yeah. Yes, you can take off your pants when you do this. Do whatever you want, Right. And then OCR is the same way, where it's like, all right, we're gonna do a 24-hour course on a mountain, or you're gonna have to wear the wetsuit for the 24 hours because it's gonna be, things will literally freeze. So I think there's a little bit of space.
So there's like a triathlon aspect of it too. If you're like take like the best, if you are talking about doing like a wild and crazy thing, like taking like the most, I know you're saying bland, but for, I guess, an Olympic event, it has to be very focused on like what is the skill that this person is showing.
Speaking of the Olympics, another plug for my articles. Got a article coming out on why breakdancing is going to be in the Olympics and OCR isn't. So follow teamstrengthspeed.com. Check on the articles section for that.
Yeah, I kind of want to know the answer to that, but I can.
I gotta know now.
No, I don't know. What's the God, I'm so not athletic. What's the Olympic event with the like ribbon dancing? Is that what it's called? Is it?
I think it's rhythmic gymnastics, I believe. Is
Okay,
the term.
I think that's super interesting. I know that is that like where the breakdancing aspect is coming from of just like performing. I don't want to talk about your article. I know.
Yeah, so the high points of the article are one, the Olympics is a business, but they sell themselves really well as like a morally aligned organization, and they have important morals are important there, but at the end of the day, they're business, right?
We've done a show on the Olympics, and it's
Ooh, I'll have to grab the link.
Oh yeah, I mean I think it was like our second season.
Cost space analysis, right? So like I need a breakdance, like I literally need a square of floor. OCR, you need like a several mile course. And then the amount of money you're spending on obstacles and marking and clearing a path and blah, blah, blah. Standardization, like I talked about for the, comparing times on the opposite sides of the world. I can do that with breakdancing. And then again, kind of back to the business, right? Like it's got to be interesting and it's got to sell tickets. And like seeing someone breakdance is awesome, right? Like it's still awesome. Right? Regardless of how many times you watch it, you're like, that was really cool.
I shot a music video with a breakdancer a couple of weeks ago, and the choreographer told me, you can't keep this or that move because that's what every breakdancer does. But I'm like, but that's why I watch a breakdancer, is to see that move and go, wow.
Well, it's like a figure skater, like doing like a freestyle type thing. Like there's a whole competition that's just freestyle, right? I'm not making this up.
No,
I feel like in video games I've played, there's like a thing where I have to like freestyle. That's my context, by the way. That's my reference.
Mario Olympics. It's like
Mario and Sonic, the Olympics. I play a lot of video games. I guess I should have mentioned that earlier in the podcast. Yeah, I feel like I understand that a freestyle like sort of thing. I wonder if there would be some sort of like, here are 8 obstacles, choose 4 of them, choose 5 of them for like OCR, that type of event. This is coming from someone who knows nothing, who knows very little about the sport and the Olympics in general.
Yeah, I think there's, again, with OCR being so diverse in so many distances and so many disciplines, I think there's room for an OCR strongman type event. So there's a brand called Dirt Runner that has something called the DRX Games that basically has like, 5 events or something, and they have you do, it's like an obstacle specific move for reps or for distance or for something like that. So it's like, who can cross the rig the most distance before they fall off, or who can do, the most tire flips followed by, tire flips, Atlas stone carry, bucket carry over set distance in the fastest time. So it's like, they're actually individual events. So they actually stop after each one. So it's very similar to strongman, and then they rank you, and then you get points for that. So I think there's room for that. I think that would be. I
wonder if why would cool. you? What's fun about obstacle courses and obstacle course racing media, I think, though, is that diversity, right? Oh, whoa, did I just see that guy do 3 levels of monkey bars? Did that just go up and down and then up again, or that's what makes it a fun and challenging thing to watch, and why watching videos from season to season of different race series can be so much fun. It's almost like shooting for, I don't know, maybe the word not legitimizing, standardizing probably is better. Almost take some of the magic out of it. The reason why you enjoy doing it as a layperson who's just I just want to go see if I can do it, is the very same reason why obstacle course racing media can be so fun, I think, and hard to do.
Yeah. I have no answers right now. So yes, it is. It's very difficult.
Well, I think we got some good input. Any final thoughts on kind of the future of media or obstacle course racing film or content in general before we start wrapping things up?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I feel like the pandemic exposed, I know you were saying it rattled a lot of industries, and the film industry is obviously one of them. I mean, I just watched Godzilla Kong on HBO, which I was going to go see in theaters, but because of the pandemic, they, HBO and Warner Brothers put their entire release calendar on HBO Max same day, this year, which was a very interesting thing. It does not, for me personally, it does not replace going to a movie theater and watching King Kong and Godzilla beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah, that's a movie theater movie.
Yeah, it totally is.
But I'm going to watch it at my home next week.
Exactly, yeah, because it's now, right now, it's not worth the risk. Anyway, I still like pumped up the sound and everything, and it looked great, and it was fun. But it kind of proved the point that like, yes, if someone wants to pay a premium I don't know how it's going to work when there's not a pandemic, but I would be curious to see if movie studios moving forward do this double release of theater and app or internet or whatever. And that goes back to my point earlier about like, I think right now everything is like internet and app based. I think it's going to continue that to even like, I think YouTube will become more and more, maybe, like more and more movies will go in it. Maybe they'll get like or like channels like YouTube, which it feels like a lot of these companies are trying to do right now. I mean, YouTube is also very public oriented, and like, everyone's just putting their own stuff on there. And it's like how I started making videos. But like every company puts their stuff on there. So I don't know, like there's even OCR stuff on there. I don't know at what point you start paying for the premium stuff. So like at what point, I backed myself into a corner here. So I'm trying to like process what that was.
So we did have a OCR media company try to do like a premium channel, and people were not happy with it. They were like, "What? Yeah. You want me to pay $3 a month?" It's like $3, guys. They were not happy, but I think part of that had to do with like the quality of the content they were producing, right? So like if it's the same quality that's going out for free, like I don't think people are really interested. Be like, I get that for free. Why am I paying for something that's literally the same quality? Yeah. I think and then some of the personalities were a little bit abrasive, but some of that works as clickbait. Sure. They definitely had some clickbait clips that got people riled up. I mean, there's just people just so angry, unreasonably so. But yeah. And Bobby, was I talking with you about movie theaters? I think I think movie theaters are essentially dead, and that they're going to switch to like kind of like almost like private screenings where it's like a bigger screen. It's not like a movie theater screen, but it's like a big screen, and there's like maybe 20 seats in there. So it's basically like a bunch of mini movie theaters in the space that used to be a big movie theater. That's kind of my prediction for the future.
It may be because I just want it to continue because I love the experience I love movies so much, but like, I mean, I don't think they will because Anthony, Godzilla versus Kong was horrendous on my television, like in my living room. It was not fun to watch because every time all the stuff that they made that movie for, the big visual effects moments and the set pieces, they fell flat. And you're like, oh, I wish I was watching this in a theater. And then all the filler stuff in between that's supposed to kind of like whet your appetite and make, oh, I can't wait till something big punches something else big again. All that stuff fell flat. And you realize that it was all filler for the big stuff that you were supposed to see in a theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I found myself distracted while watching the movie, and like I know what those movies are. It's literally called Godzilla versus Kong. I'm not watching like Magnolia or something, but it's like I found myself distracted, and if I was watching it in the theater, obviously I would be engaged. If I was watching it on a 20-story screen or whatever,
it would have been like awesome.
But I don't know. I also kind of, I agree with you. Like, I don't know if it's because I don't want them to go away, but I think the movie theaters still have a future. I think there's obviously we hit a road bump with everything with the pandemic. A lot of organizations, companies industries have. I think that when it's like 100% safe to go to movie theaters again, I think there will be a resurgence. I think there is going to be a major resurgence of like the movie theater movie, or like when like what was it, The Hateful Eight that Tarantino did in like 70 millimeter on film and everything. I think there's going to be more event films, large format films, and
interesting.
It will be. Yes, I totally agree with you. I think like it might become more of like a, I don't know, like it might become more of like an event thing that you do, or in like a niche thing that, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be like private as like you're saying, but I think that there will be, I think the whatever the repercussions will be, I don't know, but I think it would be interesting if it did turn into something that was just like everything was more event based.
Gotcha.
of like, this is, hey, we're presenting, not like, I don't mean like 4D and like, smell-o-vision or something, but I mean just like, this is like, yeah, we're doing this. It's like, this is like an event movie. Like, remember when like Lord of the Rings came out? There hasn't been like a trilogy like that. I remember like even if like people who didn't like read the book or anything, like, I didn't read the book and I was like excited for that movie just because of like, it was such a big event.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if more of those types of movies are coming out so to get people to the movie theater, because like Bobby, you don't want to watch Godzilla and King Kong beat each other up on your TV. You want to watch it on a big, gigantic screen.
See, I'm pretty new. Like, if you're like, oh, we can watch it in my house or watch it in the theater, like, I'll be like, stay in my house. I'm good. But I'm not like I like movies, but I don't like movies like you two like movies.
Yeah. I mean, you knew how insufferable I was. We're like, we got to get there 50 minutes early so we get a seat. And not in like the off center. Like, we have to get the center seat.
But that carried over to me. 'Cause now I completely agree with that. If it's an important movie, right? Like, I'm like, all right, when did it? Like, when episode 7 came out, I was like, we were in Lebanon, and we were waiting, like, counting down the minutes until the tickets went on sale, and then bought them online like 4 days early or something insane.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And like, yeah, those big like tentpole movies like a Star Wars or a Marvel movie, like I want to see with the Shang-Chi trailer just dropped yesterday. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see that in the theater. And like, I'm glad they delayed Black Widow. Like, I want to see that in the movie theater. Those action movies.
Gotcha. All right, let's start wrapping it up. Before we go, Anthony, and any shout outs you want to give to anyone before we take off?
No, thank you for having me on here.
Yeah.
It's been super interesting, because it's, like I said, it's something I don't know much about. Yeah. And it's been interesting, talking to Bobby about the way he produces these videos, and having the perspective after watching all the content you share with me, having the perspective of, you who races these. Yeah.
Bobby, any shout outs you want to give, or any kind of big things you have coming out that people need to be on the lookout for?
No, dude. At this point, nothing at the moment. You can go check me out at bobbyross.film if you want to hire me. And
is the website up now? Can I go to it?
Yeah. It's there. It's there. I get to I have a bio and everything.
Fancy.
You can follow me like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Bobby Ross Film. It's all the same thing now, which is really easy. And if you try and get a hold of me on Facebook, I won't answer you because I'm not ever on.
Me too. Yeah, I've been less and less Facebook these years. This site is great. I like the splash page.
Thanks.
Oh, this is great.
And so Bobby did a bunch of Technique Tuesday videos for the Conquer the Gauntlet Pro Team. So if you head over to the CTG Pro Team YouTube page, you can watch those ahead of time. And they will eventually publish on our Facebook, but that's still a couple months away. And then
Have you put the first one out yet?
There's 2 up on YouTube right now. See, Bobby Ross just shot Casey Timber Challenge a couple days ago.
Keep an eye out. Actually, you know what? Keep an eye out on, there's a project in Tulsa that's really great that I'd love to just give a shout out anyway that I've been able to be a part of. It's called Fire in Little Africa. And it's the 100-year anniversary of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. There's a lot of incredible education that you can get on their website and on their social media. And I'm privileged to be a part of. I don't know all that I could say about it, but like I was a colorist on a big project that we're doing, and I've been able to be a cinematographer and a director on a couple of different like things that they've been doing. And it's a really amazing project, and you definitely should educate yourself about that if you don't know anything about what happened in, here, literally a block away from my house in 1921.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will check that out.
And before we go, Anthony, I didn't give you much prep time. You have any good stories from high school for our listeners, since you knew me back in the day?
Not really. We were in a lot of plays together. Evan played my son in The Sound of Music.
That was always awkward.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple scenes where we hugged, and we're the same age, and I just remember having trouble not laughing because when we'd hug, because it would be like a big group, and you'd probably whisper something inappropriate in my ear or something like that, and I would.
It wouldn't even be inappropriate. It'd be just like a dumb high school bleh. It would be like a dumb sound or something like that. Yeah. But it was also funny because all the other Von Trapp children were I feel like 7th and 8th graders, and then
They were younger, yeah.
And then Evan was like he was a senior.
Seniors,
We were
yeah.
both seniors.
So we had one 10th grader, one 9th grader, and then
Oh,
it was
right,
for
yes.
7th and 8th graders. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. This is Aaron, Katie, and then the
Mhm.
other ones. Yeah.
So I always thought that was funny, but yeah, and also just like a lot of Mario Kart and Smash Brothers that we still play Smash Brothers to this day. Every single time Evan comes to New York, we play the most recent iteration of Smash Brothers, and it's like riding a bike. And Evan, you don't have like a Switch, or you haven't had any of the most recent Nintendo systems, so he only plays it like once a year at my place. But the controls have not changed, so he's just able to just pick it up, and it's awesome.
We jump right into it. We jump right into it.
I feel like
My
Evan
character-
is a Kirby player.
No, that's Anthony.
Funny. Yeah. the
No!
first
I'm
Samus.
Smash
Brothers, yeah. Evan was always Samus, I was always Kirby.
And then occasionally I like to play as Mr. Game & Watch because he's such a terrible character. So like it's demoralizing when I beat you with him, if I can pull it off, which is infrequent. And then my other favorite one is Donkey Kong because he has a move where he picks you up. So I'd pick people up and I just walk off the edge of the screen, like suicide with them. And then they get super mad. I don't win with that though, but it's worth it for the reaction.
Yeah, you're not playing Super Smash Brothers to win. You're playing it because I don't know, just you're laughing at everything.
Yeah.
There's still things I quote the Snorlax situation. There's still things I quote like in my head when I see like a character from something, and that it like immediately brings me back to playing Smash Brothers with Evan.
Yeah, bottom line, big nerds in high school. And, don't regret any of it.
Still a big nerd.
Still a big nerd, yeah. Wouldn't change any of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to know more, you can head over and pick up the Ultra-OCR Man book, my book, that me and Bobby Ross did the commentary for. And that's available on my website, teamstrengthspeed.com. Also, all my books are available on Amazon now, I believe. So if you just search for my name, Evan Perperis, they'll all pop up, and you can buy them off there too, or off my website. Either one works. And we are gonna wrap it up. Thanks for coming on, and it's good catching up with you, Anthony. We haven't talked in a while, like most.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, most of my male friends, we talk, and then we won't talk for like 6 months, and then it'll be like, hey, I'm coming home in like a week, or I'm coming home. No, it's usually like 24 hours out, and my wife's like, did you tell Anthony you're coming home? I was like, no. I was like, I'll text him tomorrow. She's like, what? Like,
I feel like it's also just texting Star Wars memes back and forth.
That's usually what it is.
A lot of them.
My favorite one is the action figure of Luke Skywalker's parents. It's just like a burnt skeleton.
Oh, his aunt and his uncle?
His aunt Peru. It's just a burnt skeleton. It's so good.
You sent me the other one. I was like looking through our texts. I mean, we're going to run out of time, but it was the... one of the last ones was like hot aunt in a Marvel movie, and it's Marissa Tomei and Spider-Man, and it says hot aunt in the Star Wars movie, and it's Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen Byrne.
I love Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen jokes. They're so dark. I love the darkness of them. Oh, man.
Anyway, OCR.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks again for listening. Check the notes at the bottom of this podcast post for some of the videos and content we mentioned. And other than that, we'll catch you guys in a week or two. All right,
Bye.
thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks a lot.